All right, we back with Black Legacy, Black Minds. Me, Coach Emery Cannon, my co-host here, Dr. Mario Wallace, and today we're here to talk about the digital divide. So it's two parts to this, though. It's really two digital divides going on. The first one is the one that's going on in the news right now with the administration and the so-called tariffs of an employee, uh, body versus human. Mario, can you tell us a little bit more about this?
Yeah. So, as Emery said, we had a digital divide in the '80s, and we have one today, and that was related to the introduction of the laptop computer and the computer to Americans across the country. And then today we're in the AI economy, which is a type of digital divide, and there's a lot centered around the benefits of it and how it will impact brown and black people in America. But to address, your initial question is, I know that most people saw when the administration signed something into law yesterday regarding tech companies who are hiring people from foreign countries like India and China, where for every person that's hired by a tech company from a foreign country, there is a wage levied against that company, meaning for every person, the company has to pay the government $100,000 per tech person, per Indian, per Chinese who work in the tech field. That is an initial payment of 100,000, but an annual payment of 100,000 also. So when they first come to this country and work for a tech company, when they're first hired, the company has to pay up 100,000 for them in addition to their salary, but that 100,000 goes to the government. And every year, as that person is working for the tech company or in America, uh, doing tech, computer programming, computer engineering, coding, whatever that looks like, developing artificial intelligence, that company has to pay 100,000 per foreigner who works for that company.
So that's you got 15. You got 15 of them working for you. That's another. So basically, if you're paying somebody $500,000, you're really paying them $600,000. Just 100 of it goes straight to the government.
100, that's right, goes to the government. And I've seen people speak out on it. I've seen tech company executives speak out on this particular. I don't know if it's a policy, bill, law, whatever it is. I do know it's an executive order. Um, but yeah, this will it's similar to a tariff, but we can't call it a tariff. A tariff is levied against products that's coming into the country,
Right.
uh, and or products leaving the country as it relates to tariff that other countries are levying against the United States. Is related to humans being recruited into the country. So it's not necessarily a tariff in a sense, but it's similar to a
It's a
tariff.
tax.
It's yeah.
It's an overseas tax. I'm interested to see. So did he do that yesterday?
Well, he yesterday he signed it. Uh, uh, he signed the executive order yesterday.
Okay. So on a Saturday evening, he had nothing left to do, I guess, but um, tax everybody else. So this is just for tech companies, though, right? It's not for anything else.
As of, I mean, based on what I listened to, because I haven't read anything on it yet. I haven't read the actual executive order, but based on how he explained, President Trump explained it, he was talking about people who are being recruited by these large tech companies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So does that push us ahead, or does that still push us behind? I feel like it depends on the company that's hiring, right? So if that pushes for us to do only United States workers, and we're not as advanced yet as the Asian community or as the Indian community, it how do we how do we stay productive in that capacity?
I think that's the challenge. We live in the digital age. A lot of the policies that a lot of the policies that are being pushed by this administration aligns with the industrial age, right? Construction, mining, coal mining, gold, platinum, silver, petroleum, right? You know, we shifted from I think 60%. I think it was like 60% sustainable renewable energy back to petroleum energy, fossil fuels. So we have to figure out a way to uh, uh, access enough fossil fuels in order to sustain our energy grid across the country. But there's a difference between a digital age leader and an information age leader. Right
Yeah,
now, we have, I mean, not an information age leader, but a digital age leader and an
industrial.
industrial age leader. And
Mhm.
today we have an industrial age leader, an older person that focus on the industrial age for the resources to advance the goals and policies of this country. Now, the goal, according to the administration, is to uh, offer these jobs at these tech companies to Americans and not foreigners. So this is first. It was a tax levy. It was a levy. I mean, a tariff levied against countries and businesses in America who actually spent money with foreign uh, countries and foreign businesses in order to
Mhm.
enrich themselves in America. Now it's the opposite. It's the recruiting of foreigners. So wait a minute. Even maybe this administration's second month in office, there was something signed to prevent um, international exchange students from coming to this country as well.
Yeah.
So um, I think this is just an extension of that. And do we have the necessary capabilities? According to Tim Cook, he said in an interview that if he were to recruit people from China to do the tech development and programming for his product, for Apple's product, he said he can recruit and fill up almost 2 soccer field stadiums of people who have the qualification. He said if he were to recruit for the same positions in America, he would only be able to fill up a classroom.
Okay.
So
So
what is that saying? We don't necessarily have enough people with the capabilities to do this actual work. So, based on putting these barriers against recruiting people who have those tech skills, we have to develop people within the next 2 to 3 years in order to be able to effectively develop the products that someone from these foreign countries will be able to do today.
So that puts you in the mind state of we're already behind. Now you're saying 2 to 3 more years to catch up, but we won't be catching up. We'll be catching up to real time right now, where there already be another 2 to 3 years ahead of us.
Yeah,
Is kind of what I'm gathering.
we'll be attempting to catch up with Japan and China, and
I
also
know,
India.
but that would just be to right now.
That's
How
to right
how
now. Yes.
difficult would it be for us to catch where they are where they'll be in 3 years? Because we're using pretty much all of their technology
Yeah, we
to
are.
understand and code what we already have.
Yeah. We have a lot of like for instance, MIT has a great program that turns out and graduates some of the best computer programs in the world. Then you have Silicon Valley. Uh, those people there also have some of the best and greatest capabilities for tech ideas. The problem is the minority community is not necessarily a part of that. There's a small percent of minorities who are in uh, those tech circles and understand and have the capability of developing advanced uh, technical programs that can uh, um, use for small tech companies or just work for large organizations like Meta with Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk, Sam Altman. You know, think about it. In the recent months, last 2 months, you saw that there was a recruiting war between the big tech leaders.
Yeah,
Elon, Sam Altman, Mark Zuckerberg, and Google were offering people positions for $5 to $10 million, like
Yeah.
signing these people in positions at, 5 to 10 to $15 million. These are unheard of salaries for positions. We've never had these type of salaries initially for any other discipline that came out of a university, uh, such as a CEO, um, a CFO, a chief financial officer, chief marketing officer. You know, the traditional positions were never paid initially uh, 10 to $15 million just to start working for a company. So
Yeah.
the prices are outrageous, and with the barrier to entry now of recruiting tech people from India and China, uh, it's going to put a lot of pressure on these tech companies, uh, as well as force these companies to try to accelerate the development of people within the borders of the United States to be able to provide the same services.
So I take that one or two ways when you start looking at the realization of the money, right? So they're spending 10, $15 million on starting out. $100,000 means very little in those kind of salaries. Um, and so they may have to watch the amount of people so it doesn't equal another salary. So you get 5 people come over, that's $500,000, but you're already paying them, you know, 8 million apiece,
Well,
right?
it's not. No, it's not all of them are getting paid that type of money. It's
Yeah,
the unique. It's the so they
specific.
need. It's almost like frontline staffing organization. They need at least, like, just give me a hypothetical, 20,000 frontline coders, and I'm not talking about entry level coders. I'm saying advanced coders. But then you have those unique specialty positions, uh, of those people who are being offered $5 to $10 million, $15 to $20 million, right?
Yeah,
With these benefit packages just crazy, crazy. And there are these unique people. So a lot of these companies not just offering 5 to 10 million or 15 to 20 million to these individuals. They're also buying the companies that these tech people have and incorporating those systems inside within their actual coding in their platforms, right?
gotcha. Okay, so that makes more sense.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So still, I mean, I just don't know how far you're going to be able to go with that. That's pretty eye opening, especially when it comes to government getting involved with big business again. I just feel like that's a fine line to carry.
Well, here's the thing: strategically, and I'm not looking at this negatively or positively, but if you are a company, the way this administration is running the White House is if it's a corporation, right?
Yes.
uh, you want to mitigate any of the forces within, like this concept called Porter's Five Forces, right? You want to mitigate as many forces that erodes profitability. So what they're saying is that if we're spending money as a company with a foreign entity, you're helping to sustain that entities, or companies, or countries' GDP, right? They are producing way more products than we are in America because they're making the products for Americans, and our small business owners are buying those products from these foreign countries. Now, it also strategically, if we're recruiting more people from foreign countries for a specific skill set than we are in America, meaning it shows that we didn't develop our human capital to have the capabilities over the last 20 years. Then strategically, it's the same thing. You're trying to erode, you're trying to prevent the erosion of profitability that's created from monies being uh, gained by a foreign entity, which is a country in this, according to this administration, compared to what we're profiting in America. So basically, if we are hiring more Chinese and more Indians, the money is being hired. I mean, the money is being contained and spent in their economies, in their countries, sent
Yeah.
back to them, right? Versus the money being retained in America.
Makes sense. To a certain degree, but I mean, still, if they're living in America, and so this is all assuming that they're coming to America working,
They're coming
not
to.
not they're hiring them and letting them work from home and wherever they are. Here's
Well,
a
go
here's
ahead.
a
Go ahead.
here's a good question. So, just thinking about how far in advance China and India are ahead of us on tech, right? Just on tech, AI, the regenerating that idea. How many of them over there have computers and in each household, and
Yeah,
how are they able to get so far ahead of us?
I think it was. I don't know. I can't answer that question. Um, it's like I'm gonna give you an example. Like South Africa, Africa. During or after uh, when Mandela was in prison in South Africa, the discipline of choice, higher ed discipline, was to become attorneys. So they ended up with a surplus of attorneys. A lot of people, a lot of Africans went to school to become attorneys. That was the goal of the country. India, the goal of the country is to for most Indians to become mathematicians and computer programs and computer
Right.
scientists. So
Yeah.
that was a push for the past 20 some years. We were farther ahead with Steve Jobs, uh, uh, Bill Gates, in Oracle, all these different companies. We was Intel, we was farther ahead, but all of a sudden India saw an opportunity and they filled that void, and they became the country of choice to recruit for technology, anything coded and so forth. So I can imagine the government provided opportunities for in order for them to have access to computers, to computer coding programs, and all the things they needed to develop their competency and capacity to be able to compete and to be the number one country to be to for other countries to recruit for their particular service.
And so, and this is where just a quick segue into why we are behind the way we are as a country. And I would like to think that it's because the availability of learning it earlier in life. So, just a quick stat: 40% of African Americans don't even have high speed internet.
That's today. This is not
It's
years ago.
real
This is
time.
today.
Yeah, that's real
So
time.
yeah. So here's the thing. So we start at a younger age. The whole thing is to start young, right? It's not like you and I. So do you think you and I will be going into to MIT anyway to learn a new coding programs or to get a new degree in computer programming? It's mainly the younger generation. Why I
Exactly.
say is because, and here's the problem. Let's think about the 40%. So there's only 13% of African Americans in this country, which is around 45 million people. And just think of 40% of that.
Yes.
That number do not have access or can afford internet capabilities. So what does that really mean as it relates to us being in the second wave of the digital divide, which is the AI artificial intelligence divide? If we're not there, if our children are not there for this new divide, which we're supposed this is we have an opportunity to be on the ground floor now, then what does that look like for our future?
And that's exactly why I wanted to talk about that, is because me and you have spoken a lot in great detail on these platforms about we're at ground zero. Everybody has a chance. But when you look at the number of people that just lack internet, now it is curved a little bit because of cell phones, right? And so cell phones help uh, you have internet to a certain degree, but if you don't have like a laptop, you are limited on what you're able to do with AI from a cell phone versus a laptop. You get
Well,
what I'm saying?
yeah. I'm saying like if you are trying to do assignments in school, you basically need a laptop or a desktop at your home. and you basically need access to it. If children, like when digital divide happened in the 80s, it started at 28% of African Americans didn't have access. Then it grew to 40 to 50 to 66 some percent. Bill Gates came up with an initiative to put computers in libraries and to allow minorities to access those computers in libraries in their communities
Mhm.
to learn how to use just typical, just regular commands like Microsoft Word, Excel, and things like that. But they were not designed for young minorities to be able to learn coding. Today, however, their assignments, they would have to submit their assignments through some type of computer application. The cell phone is great. They can utilize the cell phone to access a lot of different things, but the AI tools and the fundamentals, because remember now, the students are not just using AI tools. They have to learn how to code. They have
Exactly.
to learn how to these are not us like in the workforce who need to learn how to use AI tools. The kids need to learn how to develop the tools of the future.
Exactly.
So how do you do that when you don't have access to and you don't have the tools at home and your parents are not truly aware of the necessity and the why behind, or they're not financially stable to be able to provide you with those resources? What do you do?
Exactly. So, in an era where internet access is imperative, we're 40% behind against the rest of the country, which 22%. So that automatically gives 18% ahead of us, a percentage that is huge when you're talking about real numbers and not just a percentage. That we need the basic information just to be able to catch up, and we don't even have that.
Yeah, yeah.
And so
So
how can you put a tariff on people in another country that have all the access when you're not even affording the United States to have the access?
well, here's the thing. Like you think of Akon with the lights. I think he was lightning a part of Africa, and
Mm-hmm.
then you had with solar energy. Then you have um, Mark Zuckerberg with Meta, who was flying these large blimps or these drones over certain parts of Africa so they can have access to the internet to access Facebook and so forth. Um, we should be spending money on the Wi-Fi infrastructure, internet infrastructure across this country. There's still rural areas that still don't have. They're still using dial-up as
Right.
their yeah.
Yeah.
When you travel through the country, you can tell when you go into these different pockets where you can even uh, 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 you tend to lose access or direction with your GPS because you're in a zone that just don't have the right infrastructure for the internet. So I think internet needs to be. It shouldn't be something that we have to pay for. It should be a
Yeah.
given by the government.
It
If
should be a
we,
broadband, national broadband service.
mhm,
Uh,
mhm,
but because I think, look, remember, I think it was last week or the week before we talked about universal money that's going to be needed for
universal base income.
right. Well, they could prevent that by having universal internet.
If there is universal internet and it can be done through the satellite, right? Then we close the gap of the digital divide and we give people opportunity to start on the ground level to start competing. But in addition to giving us universal internet, a lot of these families in black and brown communities also need technology. They also need desktop. They also need laptops. They will also need so not only should we be trying to give universal income, but we also need uh, to get these large tech companies to provide the necessary equipment for black and brown children in these underserved populated communities so they can have opportunity to compete in the near future.
They're getting pushed behind, man. And it's very unfair. I love that idea of universal, internet. I love the fact that it's a lot of nonprofits out there for those communities that teach tech, but you have to have access to it, right? You have to know about it. You have to get involved. A lot of the boys clubs, boys and girls clubs of America, they do that. I know the ones here do, and they have ways for you to catch up with technology. They have programs for it, and if you're going to have these kind of tariffs where the companies have to use Americans only, then those companies should also invest into the community. So, because companies have to look 30 years ahead. So you have to
Yeah, yeah.
think about, okay, so the companies that are here that have to invest right now out of the country should be investing into the communities that they think can help everybody.
Well, well, what they're saying right now is that they're saying, I mean, some of the politicians on Capitol Hill are saying that China, as it relates to the tech industry, became so advanced, one part due to Apple, meaning they're saying that Apple was investing 500 million for these academies over there to train up uh, Chinese people to have this advanced level of skill of coding, in which they became the manufacturers of Apple's product. I do know when this administration levied taxes against China, Tim Cook in turn uh, sent negotiate with the president of India to develop a academic institution there, a more of a vocational institution there, more of an 18-month program to start training up more Indians there. And he offered to build a $500 million facility over there.
Wow.
When this administration heard about that, they levied taxes against India to prevent him from doing that and said you need to take that money and you need to invest that money in the United States
Right.
so that you can train and educate the people here to be able to have to develop those skills and competencies and capabilities to um, develop your product. But here's the thing: what Tim Cook was saying, if you look at his profit and loss statement and the the wage cost of people working in America as well as the benefit package. If he were to build a facility, a $500 million facility in America, and he hired Americans to do the actual work, what would the price of the products, Apple's product, be going forward? Because they're considering the wages that they're paying the employees in America. You have to pay not only the salary but a benefit package as well,
Right.
right?
Right.
In some of these foreign countries, you don't have to pay for benefits of the people working in the country. I mean, in the company, and the wages are way cheaper.
hmm Yeah. So it business wise, it makes sense, right? Even if they pay the 100,000 per person, it still could be cheaper. Long term thinking. But if you
Mm-hmm.
put the money back into the community, and at least the Americans can catch up.
Yeah, yeah. So let's think about this for a second when it comes to the children in the inner city community. So, I went to a conference this week, and where I saw it was a uh, gifted, talented student kids conference, where the conference talked about all the new technologies that are available for gifted and talented students, um, and how to continue to help advance and grow these particular students. Well, a lot of information that I saw and that I engaged in, the public schools in Black community, underserved communities just don't have the infrastructure to do almost 80% of the things that I saw. Almost 80% of the technology that I experienced. Our teachers in these public schools are not equipped and not they don't have the education to teach some of the things that I experienced. In addition to only, the 40% of black families who have who what is it, don't have access to
Don't have access to the
internet.
internet.
So how that's a problem in itself. But then you have the school, you have the school system and the infrastructure in the public schools in these underserved communities across the country who are not teaching their kids the the technologies of the future. So we're teaching traditional liberal arts courses in these schools, but we're heading toward an AI, where we're in an AI economy
Right.
where we have to shift our focus on a lot of things. Particularly, are we building the capacity for the students to be able to compete in this new AI economy? And in this conference, what I saw is very scary when you think of the capabilities and the tools that exist today that are not being introduced to children in underserved markets.
So does that mean, and does that mean that we as a country need to change the curriculum being taught in school based off what's going on moving forward? Then, right?
Well, I think for instance, like the conference I went to, they this technology already exists, and the teachers are being educated on how to use this technology, and a lot of them already are familiar with it and have the capacity to teach and understand it. Um, so you have public schools, you have charter schools, you have private schools,
Hmm.
and the three schools creates a divide amongst children who are going to those particular schools, right? The public schools
Absolutely.
probably at probably the least when you think of ranking. Public schools is probably number three. Private school is probably number one. Charter school is probably number two.
Hmm.
Uh, Charter school is probably number two. So it's not just the technology, but it's the teacher's ability to teach and educate students on the new curriculum for the future.
And so that's what I'm saying is, do we need to change the curriculum, change teachers, or give teachers different training in what they're teaching? So, like, do we need to know English? For 8 years from kindergarten to eighth grade, do we need to learn English, or do we take those young minds while they're still learning things and teach them how to code and how to be valuable in the future? That's
Yeah,
what
yeah.
that's where the question really lies. Is because by the time you get to college and you're trying to learn how to use an AI tool, because you've been behind, because you're part of the 40% of people that don't have internet. By the time you get up to college, where now you have internet and you have a laptop, we're 20 years behind.
I think
If we
that
start teaching that in the fifth grade, how to. So, like when I was in high school, the internet came out, right? And we had to learn www, HTTP, www dot, and then AOL.com, right? So we still learned that at a pretty young age. We were in high school when the internet was introduced to the world, right? Now that AI is here, we're already in AI. Why not introduce that far ahead of that time? Because once you learn the English language, or cut down on the times, maybe they don't need an hour, maybe they need 30 minutes, because we need to get to this AI stuff that's going to be important. And maybe AI, we can pull AI to use them to teach the English.
well, I think we got the problem is the funding. So what I hear, like in the Chicago mayor, and I hear from the Memphis mayor and city council in Memphis, is that they don't have the funding to build out the infrastructure for education as other cities and other states across the country, right? So I think that it starts with the local mayor. How do we get the right funding and the right funding sources? How do we educate the local mayors to understand that education is drastically different? And if you go into these public schools and do an assessment and evaluation, and you go to the charter school and do an assessment and evaluation, and you go to the private school, you will see what the gap is. The
Mm-hmm.
goal is to do these assessments and to be able to close the gap. Find the right funding so that we can shift curriculum, we can recruit and hire teachers who have certain skill sets that others don't, we can develop existing teachers in those positions to be able to
Yes.
teach from these particular curriculums, because it's a total paradigm shift when it comes to you having experience as an English teacher or a technical writing or a math teacher. With now you have to augment your skill to take what you do to the next level as it relates to the future of these children. And we have to think about the future of these children. It's almost like we're teaching these children as if they're graduating uh, in the 80s and in the 90s.
Yeah, we're still. That's what I'm saying. The curriculum hasn't changed in 40 years. Like
Yeah,
I looked at my son, the last one that graduated. I looked at his classes. Those were classes I took in high school. There's a 30-year gap there. There's no way that they should be learning the exact same thing I learned.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
If you go back and look at your parents, they've just been running with the same curriculum and I'm just saying this for like public schools, right? They've been running the same curriculum for 50, 60 years. But the world has changed every 20 years. I mean, we went from being behind on the internet to now starting to be behind on AI.
So yeah, so the internet. So like I said, in the 80s, yeah, we was way behind. It created what we call a digital divide, right? We had digital native and we had digital immigrants, right? And I was considered a digital immigrant because I was learning how to, and the children was learning in school. Today, it's creating the same problem, but the divide is going to be much larger. Um, and given that a lot of entry level coding is not attractive to a lot of these large companies anymore, right? And they're replacing entry level coders with artificial intelligent coding, so the tool can actually code itself. Um, and when we go into these high schools, we need to hear things like Python coding that's taking place in these high schools. We need to hear things about AI agents, that's concepts that's discussed in classes taught about within these high schools, right? If we don't, what's going to take place? We're going to lock the children out of education from either from high school to a college education. We're going to lock them out of the job market and opportunity within the job market.
That part.
We're going to widening the wage gap across America, and we're going to have a challenging cultural and psychological negative impact on the underserved communities, given that they cannot compete at the
Qualify.
and qualify at in some of the universities that provide this type of training and education, and as well as the workforce. So, and that goes back to what Elon Musk and Sam Altman talks about is universal based income. They're saying that it's going to create such a depression on a lot of communities
Yes.
cannot compete in the job market in which they will be able to apply for UBI universal based income just to sustain and survive.
And so me and you have talked, and again, we have said we're at ground zero, but ground zero only works is if AI accessibility is available
That's
to
right.
everyone. It Otherwise we're right back in the same restraints and the same constraints that we were in the previous era of internet coming to the forefront. And that's people making minimum wage. And what does that produce is higher crime because people don't have access to everything, and more confusion in the community, bad leadership because there's not enough accessibility. So I feel like, at the end of the day, we all need the access to AI for this to be a true, true, true ground zero.
That's right. And I remember we talked about John Hope Bryan and Van Jones when they first, they did their podcast about, what's happening with artificial intelligence, and they talked about ground zero.
Yeah.
I understand what they were saying, but the problem is if underserved communities don't have access to the internet, what does ground zero really look like? Are we or will we be a part of ground zero as a community, right? Or will we be locked out of being a part of ground zero?
Exactly. Exactly. That's exactly it. And the way this administration is running, the United States is getting locked out of ground zero as a whole. Like, it's all about equality, you know, and equality is everybody. Just
Yes,
in
yes.
case some people don't understand, equality is everybody. We all need to be in on this at the same level, and we can all grow from it. I feel like there's a call to action here. The call to action is we need what you call it, a nationwide broadband high speed internet across the board. Just that will catch everybody up.
Yeah, we need free internet across the board.
Free internet before you pay everybody to do nothing. Try something that can help everybody do something, which is free internet everywhere. Every from sea to shining sea. Does
Yeah,
that
so yeah, if we actions that we can take, we if we can, one part is just internet access. If we can figure out a way to get universal based internet to all people across the country, that will give everybody the opportunity to start on ground zero together. But then when it comes to the academic curriculum at elementary, middle school, and high school, we need to really examine our curriculum and start to design curriculum that focus on the present and the future as it relates to this AI economy. So the mayors in a lot of these different cities need to figure out a way to evaluate private schools, charter schools, and public schools, and try to elevate the curriculum to be competitive, so that these people from underserved populated areas and communities can compete in the future, uh, and have something to strive and expect for their future.
yes, I agree. Well, we showed you the problem. We have solutions. But even if they can't do it worldwide, right? Let's do it community by community by community. This is something that's possible. It's not. I'm not. We're not talking about the impossible. We're just talking about investing back into the people that pay the taxes. That's it. Any last words today?
I mean, I think we have action steps, but we have a huge challenge ahead of us when it comes to underserved populated communities. Let's figure out strategies. Let's local mayors, local governors. Let's work together to figure out how can we give access to all people and not a small population of people, so that all Americans can compete in this new AI economy.
Guys, this is what I believe. I believe that everybody deserves to have the opportunity to become successful. I talk about it in every video I have. And the most important thing is having access to become successful. And I want people to share this video to the people that can make a difference, to the people that can make decision makers that will help every community stay aboard and abroad so that we don't have to ship people in to get jobs. We can do the jobs ourselves. We can do for America, by America, just like this administration wants. But we have to be skilled to do it, and we can't be behind.
That's right. That's right.
Anyway, you heard it here first. I don't think anybody else talking about that, Mario. Again, we appreciate you guys tuning in, and please share this with someone that can make a difference. That's a decision maker, somebody that's linked with the mayor, the governor, whoever. You have to invest in your community first.
That's right.
That's it. That's all I got.
That's it. I
All
think
right,
I've said
guys.
enough.
We'll see you guys next week. Bye for now.